Let's talk about the Washington Commanders because this is a definition of a team and the entire front office believing in their star quarterback based off his rookie season, and they're going all in with that rookie contract. Now, we have seen this over the last decade in the NFL. When you look at that quarterback price, every single year it continues to go up. I'm predicting one season we're going to see a quarterback get paid $65 million per year. That's usually how it goes when you raise up the cap space, with the TV deals come in. The NFL is going to always go out there and try to extend the cap. So you're going to have a lot of quarterbacks getting paid over $60 million per year. But before you get to that point, you have your quarterback on a rookie deal and Jayden Daniels. You can exercise that fifth-year option, which gives you a lot of flexibility down the line. This is just for a bunch of people that don't know about the contract situations in the NFL. You can go out there and bring in a tackle in Laramie Tunsil. Now, on the surface, this is a great trade for the Washington Commanders, but at the same time, he is not playing at the same level that he did 3 years ago with the Houston Texans. He is still one of the better left tackles to have in the NFL, but he was a holding machine this season, and he had a lot of false start penalties. But I will also give him credit. The last 5 games of the regular season and in the playoffs, he performed very well, and that's why you want to bring him in. He's an excellent pass protector, and in the run blocking situations, he can be off and on. But you want someone to come in and protect the blind side of Jayden Daniels, and he has that veteranship. He was drafted by the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins traded him to the Houston Texans. And as soon as he went to the Houston Texans, their offensive line got better. The Texans right now are in a tough spot in terms of trying to pay top-end talent because Derek Stingley Jr., he's up for a contract with them. They didn't just move off of Laramie Tunsil because he's regressing. He's a washed-up tackle. No, he can still ball. He can still play. And he's going to be a very good offensive lineman. But be on the lookout for some of those penalties. But look at the offensive line coaching staff with the Washington Commanders. They did an excellent job from this previous season. Because if we go back just 2 years ago, you had Sam Howell as your starting quarterback, Ron Rivera as your head coach, Eric Bieniemy as your offensive coordinator. Eric Bieniemy was one of the worst offensive coordinators the NFL has seen in the last 15 years. He rarely ran the football. It was always a shotgun situation, and he had a terrible offensive line with Sam Howell. And Sam Howell was a turnover machine. Holds onto the football for too long. He was never going to develop into being the right quarterback for the Commanders because of those issues. So you move off of Sam Howell. When I look at that coaching staff to see what Dan Quinn was able to do in just one season, we're talking about the Washington Commanders being one of the worst teams in the NFL. In a span of just 1 year with brand new leadership, brand new general manager, you turn everything around. And that is what you want to see from your coach. That's what you want to see from your new ownership because that is setting a culture with the Commanders. We saw what the old ownership did in Snyder, who was terrible. Dan Snyder will go down as one of the worst owners in NFL history. But to see Josh Harris go out there, be more interactive with the fan base. Did you see the amount of fans that showed up at training camp? They're excited for this team. And that was before they had the great season that they just had. But you bring in a player like Laramie Tunsil, that's going to be amazing for the rest of this offensive line because you still had offensive line problems from this previous year. And that's been carrying on for the last 4 years. They have not found a true star tackle since they traded Trent Williams many years ago to the San Francisco 49ers. Now you're bringing in the right pieces to help keep your quarterback upright. And even when he's dealing with pressure, Jayden Daniels was one of the best quarterbacks against the blitz and against total pressures in general. But you can't constantly put him out there over and over again to deal with those blitzes and to deal with that pressure. But I love Jayden Daniels. I loved him as a prospect. You can go back and watch those videos. I saw him at LSU. It's the reason why he won the Heisman Trophy. And I do believe that he will continue to be a top quarterback in the NFL. Now, Dyami Brown, he is no longer with the Washington Commanders. That hurts me a little bit because he was their best deep threat on the team. We could say Terry McLaurin, but Terry McLaurin is the best overall wide receiver. He's going to kill you down the field in immediate routes underneath. Dyami Brown was able to go out there and be that major deep target many times throughout the season. He's no longer here, but you can draft a wide receiver in the first, third, or fourth round because you still have some picks to play with and you still have the NFL draft. They brought in Deebo Samuel. They brought him in for a 5th round pick. When I look at Deebo Samuel, he's an interesting player because he's not going to be able to go out there and get that much separation. He is not known for being a speedy wide receiver. He's more so of a gadget wide receiver, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. Deebo Samuel has declined in the last 3 years, but he is still a solid veteran option. If it doesn't work out, you spend a late round pick on him. But if he does work out, that's even better. And I think that he will find success with the Washington Commanders. I don't expect for him to have over 1,000 receiving yards, but I can easily see him fitting into the backfield with the Commanders and being a very good do-it-all player in terms of playing inside the slot, playing on the outside as a wide receiver. And if you want to flip him in the backfield, if Brian Robinson Jr. goes down for a couple of games, and the same with Austin Eckler, he should be okay in that situation because we saw what Kyle Shanahan was able to do with him. He used him as a running back. He used him as a slot wide receiver. He used him as an outside wide receiver. But you still need to bring in some more help to help out Jayden Daniels on the outside. You have Terry McLaurin. Deebo Samuel is your number 2. You're bringing back Zach Ertz. It's a lot of older players with this roster. Now, Terry McLaurin is still young. He's a top wide receiver in the NFL every single year in his career. He's posted over 1,000 receiving yards except for his rookie season. That's how amazing that he is. But when I look at Deebo Samuel, veteran player, can break tackles in space, can make defenders miss. You're going to be able to get some good juice out of him coming out of the backfield and being in the slot. So you're adding in those 2 players on the offensive end. And then you're bringing back Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is a very good running back. He's a definition of a do-it-all running back. His strong suit is more so of being a receiving back. He's not going to go out there in between the tackles like Brian Robinson Jr. That's why you have him. Austin Eckler is not a power runner. And the run game took a major hit when he was out dealing with that concussion. And the receiving game also took a hit also. That's also another reason why I say the Deebo Samuel trade will work out for both sides. But you look at Austin Eckler, you bring him back, very good player. Brian Robinson Jr. is the definition of a very good power back. If you need 2 to 3 yards, he could push it in for you. He averaged 4.3 yards a carry, 800 rushing yards on the season, 8 rushing touchdowns. So you have the core pieces with the Washington Commanders. And when you look at Jayden Daniels, he was in my MVP conversation because of what he was able to do as a rookie. No one expected for this wide receiving core to be as good as they were this year. That's the definition of getting the most out of your wide receivers. Terry McLaurin is special. But even with Terry McLaurin, when they had Sam Howell at the quarterback position, they were in the bottom of the league in terms of separation. That was not the case this year because Jayden Daniels, he was throwing people open over and over again. When we look at the quarterback position, you'll say, man, he's throwing to a bunch of open wide receivers. The wide receiver may look open on TV, but it's the way that Jayden Daniels is able to go out there and maneuver his way around the field and put the ball to where only the wide receiver can get it. And we saw a lot of those throws. Those are signs of being an elite quarterback, and he's doing this as a rookie. We could talk about the sophomore slump, but the difference with him, he has those legs. So if he does take a step back passing wise, and if the league does catch on, and trust me, they tried to. They were trying to blitz him more. They're trying to send more twists and more stunts up the middle. They just couldn't stop him. If the passing does take a major hit, his legs will push him over the top. This is why it's so exciting right now if you are a Washington Commanders fan, because you have not had a quarterback with this skill set since RG3. And they have learned from that. Now, I love what RG3 said. He wanted Jayden Daniels to watch his film to learn what not to do and learn what to do, because RG3 did have limited success before the injury started to hurt him. And we saw Jayden Daniels. He hurt his ribs against the Carolina Panthers. You have to take care of him. But as long as he's able to go out there and make plays with his legs, and he can make plays on the run, the Commanders are going to always be in every single game moving forward. That is how special this quarterback is, and that is how special Cliff Kingsbury is. And I want to give Cliff Kingsbury a lot of credit here. When he was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, was not the best situation. He was not ready to be a head coach. He really was not ready to be in the NFL just yet. And he turned down a lot of head coaching jobs potentially to come back to the Washington Commanders. His adjustments on the back half of the season were phenomenal. The play calling still can be a bit better, but you're seeing him grow into being a top offensive coordinator in football. But I love the offense they're carving out right now. And you still have Luke McCaffrey. There's a lot of potential there with him. He's the brother of Christian McCaffrey. Luke McCaffrey only had 18 catches, 168 receiving yards. But he was just a rookie. You give him some time. See if he can go out there and see if he can carve in a nice role with the Commanders long term. But I really like Luke McCaffrey. Maybe he turns into nothing, but give him a chance. See what you have in him. But having Zach Ertz back with the Commanders is also huge. He had 654 receiving yards, 7 receiving touchdowns. He caught the game-winning touchdown against the Atlanta Falcons. Little things like that is why you need veterans like this on your team. And he knows the system very well with Cliff Kingsbury because he was a starting tight end with the Arizona Cardinals at the time. And he was a great tight end option for the Philadelphia Eagles many, many years ago. So bringing back a for sure handed tight end is definitely going to work out for you, but you do need to eventually get younger at that position. And you also brought in Tyler at the center position. Tyler was a very good center for the Dallas Cowboys. He got to play last season. He was a very good center. He's coming back. That's a very good interior offensive lineman. So I like what the Commanders have built over the last 2 years. And it's more than just their offense that I'm raving about, because I look at this defense. You cut Jonathan Allen. Now, Jonathan Allen was dealing with injuries. He tore his pec. He missed majority of the season. He's a very good football player. But it was really no reason to keep him on the roster. It would have saved you a lot of cap space, and that's what they did. Now he's with the Minnesota Vikings. But you bring in Javon Kinlaw, who is a very good player. Javon Kinlaw is the definition of a player that can go out there, stop the run, get to the quarterback. And this is the one thing with the Washington Commanders. They have struggled to stop the run. Javon Kinlaw had 4.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. And this is the one thing with Dan Quinn in general. Dan Quinn, throughout his entire career in the NFL as a defensive coach with the Seattle Seahawks, even though the Legion of Boom were so great, even when he was the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, they did not prioritize stopping the run. So he'll have a bunch of defensive tackles out there. In theory, you'll think, hey, these guys should be able to go out there and stop the run. But he's one of those defensive coaches, and it's nice in theory, but at the same time, it can get you in trouble to where you say, let's pin our ears back, let's get to the quarterback, then we worry about the run. That's going to hurt you. That's why you lost against the Philadelphia Eagles, not once, but twice this year. You lost to him in the playoffs. Saquon Barkley had a huge, big run. And then you lost to him Thursday Night Football in the regular season. The one time that you did beat the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts exited the game with a concussion. But you still won that matchup. And your defense did play better against Saquon. You have to prioritize stopping the run. So Javon Kinlaw, I love the signing. But this comes down from a scheme standpoint. Dan Quinn has to come out and prioritize. We're stopping the run this year. We're going to give you different looks. We're going to give you a bunch of heavy packages with our linebackers and our defensive line. And then we're going to hope that our guys on the back end can play very good defense, because it was a complete turnaround. Their rushing defense was in the bottom of the league, but their passing defense was the top of the league. They had a very good passing defense, and a lot of that is because they're pass rushers. They have a lot of pass rushers that just don't prioritize stopping the run, and they have to prioritize sealing the edge. But you have Javon Kinlaw, you mix him in with Daron Payne and Johnny Newton. Johnny Newton had a very good rookie season, in my opinion. He did have a tough moment against the Steelers. He jumped off sides. Essentially, that's what lost him the football game. But Johnny Newton out of Illinois, that's why you selected him high in the NFL draft a year ago. He's a very good football player. Lean on that rotation. And hopefully this should be enough to at least contain the run. They don't have to have a top 5 rushing defense. As long as they're top 10, top 15, they're going to be okay, because you don't want to pass against the Washington Commanders over and over again, because Dan Quinn, he will put those speed edge rushers out there and he will blitz you. And more times than not, he puts that pressure on the quarterback. He's going to either walk away with an interception or it's going to be a turnover on downs if it is 4th down. And speaking of the rest of this defense, you bring back Bobby Wagner. I swear Bobby Wagner just refuses to age. Bobby Wagner is 34 years old. He's going to be 35 when next season starts. And he continues to be a very good player. He's not playing at the same level like how he was with the Seattle Seahawks, but he was easily the best interior linebacker with the Commanders this year. And the one thing about older players, and we see this with Travis Kelce, and we see this with some of the older quarterbacks, they have instincts because they have played for so long. Bobby Wagner has been in the league for so long, he knows where to be. He knows where the running back's going to try to jump cut to. He knows the certain situations. And this is one thing that a lot of people sleep on with the linebacking spot. He has played with Dan Quinn so long, because let's remember this. Dan Quinn was the defensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, and he was there. He knows the adjustments. He knows the type of things to tell the safeties, hey, back up. Tell the defensive lineman, blitz here, don't blitz here. Watch out for the counterattack. A lot of that is on the linebackers. We just think that they just go out there and they just set up shop and just hit and just run. It's more than just that. You have to have the mind for it. And Bobby Wagner, he's able to call those audibles. And we saw this last year against the Dallas Cowboys, who's calling audibles, against the Philadelphia Eagles. And against the Cincinnati Bengals, you see him pointing guys out on the film. That's him telling guys where to line up if they're not privy to the system just yet. So having these veteran players like Zach Ertz, like Bobby Wagner, they may be a step slower. They may not hit the same, but they still have those instincts. And that is one thing that you love to see. And you heard Zach Ertz come out and he said he was beating himself up against the Steelers because he was just a couple of inches away from converting that first down. But he was so close. That's why you need that veteran presence with your team. But I love them bringing back Bobby Wagner. You have Frankie Louvu. Frankie Louvu is a beast. 8 sacks on the season, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception. He needs to be better against the run. We'll say that. And that's not even all on Frankie Louvu. It's just the way that Dan Quinn lines him up in certain situations. But if we've seen him have some big time moments against the run, it just needs to be more consistent because with the Carolina Panthers, he was a top run stopper with their organization. And I understand you may say the Carolina Panthers, they were not a good team at that time. Frankie Louvu was balling, and he took a similar contract to come over to the Washington Commanders instead of staying with the Carolina Panthers. When I look at the complete secondary, you have Marshawn Lattimore. You made a trade to bring him in. The Commanders are just trading a bunch of picks, mid to late round picks to bring in veterans like Laramie Tunsil, Deebo Samuel, and Marshawn Lattimore. You have to be careful with that. But at the same time, you're just trying to go all in. Marshawn Lattimore missed a lot of time. He hasn't been very healthy over the last 3 years. When he's on the field, he's still a solid player. But I look at someone like Marshawn Lattimore. He can be your number 1 cornerback, but I will watch out for that. I'll just say that because he has some bad moments against Mike Evans. He has some bad moments against A.J. Brown. I would not put him in single coverage every single time against those number 1 wide receivers. I don't think his body can hold up. You could put him in certain situations. He could still stick with A.J. Brown and Mike Evans. And it's not me saying that Marshawn Lattimore is a washed up cornerback. I just look at Marshawn Lattimore. You could put him on a number 2 wide receiver. He'll have a nice day. Double cover that number 1. And we saw Dan Quinn do more of that as the season progressed with Marshawn Lattimore. Granted, he only played a couple of games because of that hamstring injury. He missed majority of the season with the New Orleans Saints because of that injury. But the way that the Saints used him, he was a press man corner, but in other situations, he wasn't always on the number 1 wide receiver for the entire game. So I'll just be on lookout for that. But Mike Sainristil, my opinion, he was the best player in the secondary last season. 2 interceptions, 14 pass deflections, 62 solo tackles. I like what the Commanders are building. I like their secondary a lot. Dan Quinn's going to always have a top secondary. I can guarantee you that. Just be more careful against the run. And I do want to talk about Dorrance Armstrong for a second. 5 sacks on the year, 2 forced fumbles, had one of the highest pressure rates with the Washington Commanders from last season. With them having Johnny Newton, Javon Kinlaw, Daron Payne, Dorrance Armstrong, Frankie Louvu, and also with Bobby Wagner, they should be able to go out there on a consistent basis and put pressure on the quarterbacks over and over and over again. And I think that's what's going to happen. The Commanders, they should take a step up this next season. I'm not saying they're going to be Super Bowl contenders, but they're in that conversation in the NFC. When you talk about the best teams, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Green Bay Packers, the Los Angeles Rams, I put the Commanders right there with them. If Jayden Daniels was able to do this in his rookie season, and historically, if you ask a lot of quarterbacks, they'll tell you the rookie season is the hardest season because you're new to everything. And I know that coaches catch up on film, and you're number 2, you can have a sophomore slump. But it's a talent that they have around Jayden Daniels and the defense that they have. I think that they will most definitely be better off for this upcoming season than they were last year. And they still have the NFL draft. You still have a first round pick that you can go out there and you can play with and bring in yet another pass rusher or an offensive lineman. Because the one thing about Dan Quinn, he's going to want to build the trenches. Hell, they may even go wide receiver. Because even though Terry McLaurin is so great and you have Deebo Samuel, you still need to bring in a wide receiver just in case Terry McLaurin was to go down. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about the Washington Commanders, and are they doing everything in their power to be a top team, in your opinion, in the NFC? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace. I forgot to add this too. Dante Fowler is a free agent. Last year, he led the team in sacks with 10.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and an interception. more than likely they'll bring him back, but they should most definitely try to invest into giving him a 2 to 3 year deal, because Dante Fowler was very good in terms of going back there and putting pressure on the opposing quarterback. Against the run, not so much, and we saw that with the Dallas Cowboys, but he's a huge part of this defense, and it should definitely bring him back. But this is officially the end of the video. Thanks for watching my video, guys.